problem, no problem. We're gonna jump right into things. So just thinking about, in light of the current pandemic and things that are going on right now, in terms of finances, I'm sure that there are a lot of people that have found themselves, thinking about savings a lot more deeply. And so my first question is, for people that were maybe a little bit more unprepared, how do people begin to save?
That is a great question. And during this pandemic, I've had the opportunity to speak to so many people concerning their finances. They come, Marshea, how can we save today? What can I do? I made mistakes and how do I change? And the first thing that I say to them, as well as to our guests today, is you must make a decision to pivot. Or we could use the word as a mindset shift. I could share with you guys budgeting. I can share with you all opportunities for savings and things that you've heard a million and one times. But if we don't pivot our thoughts as far as how we handle money, what I share with you today, guys, will not make any difference. And so with that being said, I would like to take the time to actually share some things with you that I really want to put top of mind, so that you can begin to make these adjustments as far as how to create these savings. And I do hope that we continue to, as I continue to share, that I can share some information with you that it's not too late. I don't want you to feel that it's the end of the world and I'm in a crisis now, so I can't fix these things. You can. But the first thing that you must do is pivot your mindset. So I want you to ask yourself, and I'm a pencil and paper person, right? Like let's take notes and let's really dig deep as far as how do I handle myself or my family situation during this crisis. And so ask yourself questions that sometimes don't feel good to receive the answers to. Those questions that you have to really see yourselves or see the raw truth of the matter. And so one of these questions is, why? Why is savings important to me? Why now? What has happened in my life other than the pandemic that has made me realize that I should have taken action prior to this? And that why maybe to you is that my family, if you're a single mother, may be looking at you saying, Mama, why are we going without? Or as a husband or the head of the house, why am I having to explain to my wife and my children that we have to cut costs because I didn't make proper decisions? I didn't have a savings set aside for this particular situation. So I don't know what your why may be, but I think you really need to determine, why is it important that starting today that I make these necessary changes so that we will not put ourselves in this position ever again. And so the other question is, what has this pandemic caused you to realize? For some, is realizing that your home is about to be taken away from you. For others, is realizing that I was really living paycheck to paycheck when I thought that I'm gonna use the word balling. I thought, that I was living a life, I thought everything was good. And within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, a month, 30 days at the most, I'm jeopardizing losing everything that I have worked entirely hard for because I had no savings in place. So what has this pandemic really caused you to realize? The things that I need to make adjustments to. And this very simple question, am I okay? Am I okay with my current situation? Am I okay with the decisions that I made? And chances are, if you're on this call, you're probably not okay. Because, even if you had a substantial savings, and it was suffice for 30 days. That's most times, most people say prepare for 30 days. Mm-hmm. Well, this is going into now 60 days, is it? Yeah. Now, we really don't know how long. And most of us are prepared for 30 days of emergency funds. And so I asked the question, are you okay? Did I really prepare for things such as this? Of course not. Okay. And then the next question is, could I have done better? Okay. And again, guys, I'm just really asking you questions to really help you to pivot your mind when we begin to get more into detail about savings. Okay. Could I have done better? I really put my family in a financial crisis because of certain choices and decisions I made. And so I had to have this real life conversation for myself. I saw this particular card. I just like to be real, if that's okay.
Yes, let's do it.
I like to be real. I saw this. I was looking online. I was about to go on vacation, and I saw this new Beamer. That was what was it? Pensacola, Florida. So I was like, I told the kids, let's take a vacation. I really want to just get to this car because if I can just get close to it, I was going to purchase this car, right? And so, I mean, that Beamer was nice. And so it was not prepared. I was not planning. So I planned a vacation around the Beamer. I wanted the Beamer, so let's go on vacation. I had no discussion with my husband at all. Go on vacation, I come back with a new car, and my kids drive the old car back. So now, so I say that, was that a wise choice? It was not. No. It was not, guys. And I'm sure I'm not the only person that make decisions like that. Now, I'm grateful and thankful that I had things in place that I was okay to do that. But would I encourage my clients to do that? Would I encourage you guys to do that? No. And I want you to think about decisions like that. How many times have you made decisions because of things we want or things we just desire or things that we feel like we deserve, and we just do it? And then when things such as this come up, the pandemic or loss of income or family illness, we're not prepared because of decisions that we made because something we feel entitled to something. I felt entitled to that Beamer. Like I worked extremely hard and I deserved that Beamer. I also made the kids happy because they was going on vacation, right? So everybody was satisfied. So guys, these are the things that we do that causes us to go in and not be prepared for savings. So I just wanted to say that in the beginning, how do we begin to save during a pandemic? Pivot our mindsets on the way we see ourselves, on decisions that we're making, and on the way that we're handling our income and our finances.
Okay. And what do we do if we find, much like how you talked about, you're going on vacation and getting this car, and maybe wasn't the best thing to do financially? What do we do once we kind of come to that point of discovering, well, okay, I know what I did. I know I don't want to do it again, or this is what I shouldn't have done. How do we then pivot from that when we're thinking about the mindset and kind of like those action steps for what we need to do?
That's when you go to that buy, sell, and trade and you post it for sale. Like this car is now for sale. Actually, you get out your feelings, and I'm being so transparent here. You get out your feelings because now the high is gone. I'm in it, I let my drop top down and I'm feeling good. I'm excited, and I've had that moment that I needed. And then I realized this was a bad decision,
right?
And so at that point, you make a sale. You put it up for sale and you take this money to put back into your home, into your savings. And I say that to say in all things, guys, I was going to talk about that a little later. Great question. When we're looking to save, we look first in the beginning of things that you own and you possess that you don't need, that is basically a desire or something that's been sitting to the side or something you wanted. We'll use our engagement rings or wedding bands. Your husband was trying to prove to you how much he loved you. You know how that is. And he go spend $10,000. And now you realize, baby, I know you love me. Can you just get me $1,000 ring? And so we look at doing things different and say that's $9,000, $8,000 savings that we could put towards our savings account or our college funds or children's funds, etc. So look at the things that you own and you possess and make those hard decisions and say, I have to let this go because it's something that I want and I desire, but it's not what I need.
Absolutely. So it's about putting those wants and those wants to the side and really focusing on what they need, what the bigger picture is.
That's the bigger picture.
Okay.
That's the bigger picture.
If you're thinking about, so for people that say, I hear it all the time, people saying that, they don't make that much, and how are they going to save? How are you going to save when you're already trying to make ends meet? And just like, is it too late, thinking about it now being in the pandemic, for folks that are still trying to figure out, what their situation is going to be financially, is it too late for them to start saving?
No, it's never too late, guys. And I often hear that a lot, well, how can I save when I only make this amount or small amount or less amount of money? But guys, and I'm gonna say this, and I hope you all know this, live according to your net income and not your neighbor's income. And that would definitely help you. And I say that jokingly, but it's the truth. If I know what amount of money that I make, that I earn, my husband, myself, or whomever, that I earn, then my living should be based on according to what I make. But most times, just being transparent, we don't. We live according to our gross or according to the neighborhood we live in. So I tend to go and get debt because I want to keep up with my home. My yard needs to look the same as my neighbors. I need to do paint jobs or etc. I need a certain type of car to live in a certain type of neighborhood. But my net income says you can't afford that.
Right.
Okay. And so therefore I put myself in this particular situation when a crisis come or a pandemic come or just the emergency come. Okay. So to answer your question is no matter your income, no matter what you're currently making, you can begin to save. You just need to save according to where you are. And I go back to what we said earlier, eliminate those things that you do not need. Mm-hmm. If you need to downsize in your life, downsize in your way of thinking, then I encourage you to do that. And swallow pride, like it's prideful. It's very prideful to have to do that, to get rid of your Mercedes and then, pull your Honda in the driveway. It's prideful. But guys, it's not what it looked like. It's the fact of having financial freedom to know that, I could afford that Benz, but financial freedom, knowing that my kids' college fund is taken care of, knowing that, in the case that my husband and I are without work for a year, that we are financially stable. Right. And so those are the major sacrifices that's necessary to make. So it doesn't depend on the amount of money that you make, okay? And then the other question, I think it was a 2-part to that question.
Yeah, so it was just about, is it too late? So it's not too late. So you talked about like the part about like you can put some aside, there is a possibility to put some aside, but is it too late to do that at this point?
It's not too late. And with that being said, I want to talk about a couple of things that you can do to consider. Because what I was doing, I did this with myself as well as with a client on just last week. They always give the excuses like, Marshea, is just no way to save it. Like, I just don't see how I can save a dime. I said, well, let's break this down. Let's just get real here. And we lay stuff out, and she began. I said, you got Netflix, $22 a month. You got Hulu. I said, what's the difference? They both play movies. Right. Okay, so let's cancel one. I think that was like a $25 savings. And then she had Verizon that she was paying like, no, that was me. I'm being transparent. Oh. I was paying like $300 a month in Verizon for like 3 phones. And these are my girls, teenagers that's at home now during the pandemic, guys. They're at home where I pay Wi-Fi. So they don't need all of this data unlimited. They're home, they're locked in, they can't leave. So therefore I changed their plans. I went from $300 phone plan to $125 a month plan. That was celebration. Wow. That's celebration. So guys, you take that savings and now you begin to save that. Netflix, Hulu, all these different subscriptions. I don't know when the last time you probably checked the app store of how much money you're paying on these $5.99 apps and $3.99. All these different things and subscriptions that you're making payments that you're just not aware of because it's only a small amount. Well, guys, if you check those subscriptions and eliminate those amounts, this money now can be allocated to your savings account. So with this particular client, we saved her over $300 per month that I have her now putting into a savings account that she wasn't even aware of that she had that additional $300 a month that she could be saving. Okay. So looking at your finances, going through with a fine-tooth comb and really identifying like what are the things that I need, what are the things that I want. But what do you say to people who have a little bit of a harder time making like kind of discerning between the needs and the wants? Some of the things who maybe you might see as, an amenity or something extra that someone has, but for them, it's something that they feel like they might need. Like maybe it's a maintenance thing for physical things. Like what would you say to those things or to those folks? Oh, that's a really good question because in all honesty, and I'm going to say women, I'm going to use you and I for an example. Okay. We just need our hair done. Like I need to be getting service now. I need my nails done. To me, that's a need. Where my husband say, well, baby, your nails look fine. But no, I need those things done. And so, guys, it's really having a heart-to-heart conversation with you. Need is living. That's home. That's roof over your head. Need is food. Those are needs. Clothing is a need. Non-high fashion item, that's not a need. Clothing is a need. So when you leave those basic 3 needs, anything outside of that is not a need. We define it as a need because in our hearts and our minds, I just need these things because I'm accustomed to this. But these are things I can do without. Like I think I did pretty good with my hair this morning. I think I did a good job.
Yeah, I think you did a good job too.
But normally I would have gotten up, went to the salon and paid her $65, $70 to show up here today. But I realized that's no longer a need. Right. It's a desire, but it's not a need. So it's just really having a heart-to-heart conversation with yourselves and saying, I really don't need that. I just really want it.
Okay. So what are some of the do's and don'ts of saving that you can kind of share with us?
Do's and don'ts. One of the things that are late fees. With your bank accounts, I don't know if some of you guys even be aware of your different. They have different types. We have different types of bank accounts, and with some of the accounts, most of the accounts all come with fees, and with these different fees could get very, very costly. So I would say to you guys, don't create accounts or have accounts, and if you do have them, go back to revisit them. Don't have accounts that have minimum balances. And what I mean by that is that you're required to have at least $500, and you know that you have now withdrawn that account. And so now you're paying fees on this $5 to $10, a month or a week, or depending on how the bank is set up. So just be very cautious as far as what to be watchful for in different areas that you're losing money. Now this costs an overdraft, which is $35 to $40 along with these $5. So I would say to you guys to make sure that you address those different accounts that you have. Okay. Do open up a high yield account. And let me explain that just very briefly, because I can talk about money like all day.
Well, that's what we're here for.
I love talking about saving, making, and keeping money. But I encourage you, if you haven't been, and I know some have been affected, worse ways than others with the pandemic, but if you're in a position that you can open up a high yield account, meaning that you can have higher interest rates, at this time, I do encourage you to do so if that's all possible. So that's one of my do's for sure. Don't, and I say this to myself, don't get online and shop. I don't know if you guys are on social media, but during this pandemic, every time I scroll social media, there's an ad that says buy now. There's an ad with these new shoes and these products and all these services. So I'm encouraging you, now is not a time to be in your feelings. And we get in our feelings, ladies. We tend to want to spend a little more money, and we spend what we do not have because we feel that we're owed that. So I encourage you, do not get in the habit of doing that. Okay. Do not. This is again, and do not sound to be forceful, but I'm encouraging you all, do not pull money from your retirement account unless it's absolutely mandatory, unless you have no other options. Now most companies do have options that you can borrow money from your retirement, but the penalties and all from pulling money from your retirement, if you don't have to, guys, I really encourage you not to. And I know they're waiving it during the pandemic time, but just make sure that's your last option.
Okay. Why do you think that's important for people to wait on that and not kind of see that as income that they can just use, maybe to cover a bill that might not be as important?
Because a lot of times, as we were saying earlier, a lot of times that we see that must be taken care of. Now, with so many options out there as far as mortgage, they're choosing to waive that for a few months for people, your auto insurance and things like that. So if you have those options available, I do suggest that you use that. And the reason I say it, because with your retirement pandemic, hopefully we pray that it only lasts another, hopefully not long. I can't say when, but just hopefully not much longer. And if you go in and you pull your retirement now, you pull out $30,000, $40,000. Savings is no longer on your mind. Savings is no longer an option. You're going to do a little splurging. And then after the pandemic is over, guys, you don't have anything to fall back on financially when the time comes for you to retire. And then you have all those penalties that you will have to be responsible for even making those withdrawals. So again, let that be your last option.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to actually dip back into what you mentioned earlier in terms of the different types of savings accounts and maybe checking accounts. So you mentioned that some banks don't charge fees, and it's important to just be really mindful about where your money is, and if they're taking that $10 maintenance fee out. What are some options for those who maybe didn't know that there were other things that they can consider instead of having to have that $10 fee taken out of their account?
One of the things I would say is first pull your bank statements, and I was going to say that earlier. I'm going to encourage everyone that's on this call to pull their bank statements and to actually print. And when I say to pull it and print, a lot of times we all have the online accounts, and we scroll and we look, and I do that. But it's nothing like having a piece of paper in your hand with your highlighter, and you're being very mindful of, oh, what is this fee? Oh, I didn't realize I was still paying this. I encourage you to do that, because you will be shocked at the cost and some of the fees that you're paying that could be eliminated. So that's one. And then at that time, you can also see what your banking fees are, what type of bank account you have. Now, most of those are your transactional savings accounts, okay? And so with that, that's what most people have, is just a regular basic savings or checking account that you can have any types of withdrawings. Most times it's $2 to $5 fees that you're looking to pay within those accounts. Now, when you get into your money market accounts and your certificate of deposit, then those accounts tend to have more fees, which also give you more interest too. Okay.
So would you recommend that? Well, since you're getting more interest, do you think that it's a better situation for someone who is saving long term, or what would you recommend?
Saving long term, I would say the certificate of deposit, because you get the most interest on a certificate of deposit, and you don't pay Well, the money market too, either one, you get 2 to 5% interest on either of those two. But this is the thing, it's kind of good and bad with everything. The good thing is that you receive interest on your money. You know, as long as your money sits there, you receive the interest. But when you file your personal tax returns, you also pay that's additional income added to your income. So you pay interest on that income as well. So, but you're gaining money. You're gaining income. You're gaining income for your money sitting there and growing.
Okay.
So yeah, but so if you're to answer your question, make sure I'm very, very clear. The money market account and what we call as a CD is what I would recommend if you're looking for savings. Now the CD, I don't recommend if you're looking to pull it out every week, every month, then you'll have a lot of costs affiliated with that. So definitely not that.
Okay. You actually led me into my next question. I was going to ask you, you know, how do certain accounts impact your taxes? You touched on it briefly, but just thinking, you know, about the different types of accounts, are there other ways that your taxes are being impacted other than, you know, being able to, like, the interest that they're counting as income? Are there other ways that your taxes are impacted?
It is depending on the type of accounts. Now we can get into accounts of like things like the Roth accounts, which is very great, which that's the whole topic by itself. We won't get into that today. But other than your interest income is really not, like I said, your interest that you occur during this time of your money, your savings, you just file that on your personal tax return. If it's anything over $10, then you are required by law to report that income to the Internal Revenue Services.
Okay. Gotcha. I didn't know. Thank you for that. I'm making mental notes for myself as well.
Awesome. Yes.
I'm thinking forward and thinking about, you know, filing taxes and filing them for 2020 for individuals as well as business owners. Are there any tips that you can think of for things that people should be aware of for their 2020 taxes, maybe things that they could be doing or thinking about right now?
Yeah, actually, I mean, it's a lot. For one, I would say this, if you're a business owner, definitely, is that you want to make sure that you're keeping a very detailed list of all your expenditures during this time, because you will have some things that expenditures, probably working from home where you normally wouldn't work from home, which is a totally different tax bracket. So you want to make sure that you're keeping notation of, you know, the space that you're utilizing, how much is it costing, your supplies and different things like that. Also for those, oh man, there's so many things I can kind of go on as far as taxes is related. But that's the one thing I can think of off the top of my head. Is definitely for business owners that I know that has really made a transition that's no longer working at their office but working home. You definitely want to make notation and begin to keep that, because that's an expense that you can use. Okay.
All right, yeah. Business owners, make sure you're taking note, and aspiring business owners take note as well.
Awesome.
Okay. Let's see. Let me see if we have any questions from our audience. Let's see. Okay, so Catherine says that I took an early retirement and I want to put a portion of my cash in savings. What is the best vehicle for that? Instead of a savings account, or should I consider something else? So she's asking, should she use a regular bank savings account for her retirement, or should she consider a different account for that?
She could use a regular bank account, but I would use the one that I mentioned earlier, such as the CD that you get the highest interest on. Mm-hmm. That's what I would highly recommend. Just making sure that she don't need access to it, you know, soon. But most CDs run about 6 months. You have a 6-month maturity period and then a 12-month. And if you withdraw that money before that time matures, then you have to pay fees and penalties on that money. So I would recommend that one.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And then someone else is asking about savings tools. So any tools or tips that you have in terms of like things that people can be using to help them stay on top of their savings, things, whether it's a mobile app or a website, anything that they can use in terms of tools to stay organized?
It's many out there, guys. I would just really recommend that you Google that, because it's so many different things. I personally just use it for my clients. I just use a spreadsheet, because it's just a matter of creating your expenditures, things that you're spending, your monthly income, and then just having those things deducted and creating yourself a budget. You know, and we all are familiar with that. And I talk a lot more about that here in my book, Financial Transformation. And I don't know if you guys can see this clearly. If you all can understand this clown here and what he's doing, he is juggling debt. And that's one of the things that we want to try to eliminate, having to juggle our debt. But yes, there are many different tools out there available online. So I would search, or either just use a Google spreadsheet or something, in order to keep up with your expenditures versus your income.
Okay. Awesome. So go back to Excel just to keep it back to basics. What's
Just
coming in, what's coming out.
I mean, or you can get your notebook, your pen and paper, just go to work. Like, yeah. Or you can get fancy, whichever way works best for you, but I love pen and paper.
Right. Request from my 401k plan to report the money I withdrew to the IRS.
Can you repeat that? It kind of went out for a second, so I didn't hear the full question.
Yeah, sure. So I needed to withdraw money from my 401k to keep me afloat with a loss of income due to COVID-19. What document do I need to request from my 401k plan to report the money I withdrew to the IRS?
Okay. Your 401 provider, they're going to provide you a 1099-R January of next year. So it's nothing that you have to request. This is something that you receive automatically. Just make sure that you do not file your tax return until you receive it. Again, that is form 1099-R, retirement form, okay?
Okay.
Just make sure you report that. It's important. Very.
So it's gonna come automatically, but Jill should still be on top, mindful of it in terms of making sure it's reported anyway.
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome.
That's correct. And they have until January 31st, same as your W-2s, to have that issued out to you guys.
Okay. All right. And Jasmine asks if you could touch on companies like Prudential as a means of a savings account. So different companies and what you recommend in terms of saving. And she did mention Prudential as well.
Honestly, I can't, because I don't really have a preference as far as, of who to use. I would just really say do your research and make sure that you look at reviews of the different companies that you do choose to utilize. But I can't necessarily just provide the different companies or the names for you. Sorry. I did want to say this before we answer one other question. I don't know what our time is, but I wanted to make some suggestions of some different things that I've shared with some of my clients during this time. We know a lot of our children, when we say consider savings, a lot of our kids are vacations and things have been canceled due to this pandemic. So I want to make a suggestion, because we say, how do I save during a time like this? How do I create the money to come up with the funds? Well, we know as a mother, when our child's birthday, we're going to find ways to make sure they have the best birthday ever. Like, we want Mickey, Minnie, and everybody, the clowns and everybody to be present, And so I want you guys to really get the, when I say pivot, get the mindset of knowing this is how important savings is. Just as important the sacrifices we make as parents to make sure that we celebrate those days, those events, summer vacation, spring break, and etc. This is how important that we should see savings and make sure that we are setting this money aside for those that we love, that, in cases like this, they will be secured. So one of the things that I suggested to one of my clients is that her daughter's birthday was coming up, and she said, well, what should I give her? We can't do a party, we can't do this, we can't do that. Right. And I said, well, open up her college fund. Well, how would she enjoy that? Well, I tell you what you do. You blow up balloons. You bring her into your room, office, computer, whatever the case may be. You put balloons all around, and you take the amount of money that you was going to spend on this birthday party. You sit her in front of this screen, and I'm just saying $1,000, what you was going to prepare to spend on this party. And you show her, look where your $1,000 is going. You take a picture, and we sing happy birthday, and she see her money, and every month, when you get your financial reports, you show her your money is growing. Now you got $1,005, $1,020, and she's excited because, Mama, where's my money? How's my money doing? Now you're teaching her the importance of savings. Right. You're showing her that we can still have a wonderful time. We made this entire day about you. So you just got to get really creative. Same thing with your vacations. If you had to cancel your vacations, what did you do with those funds, with the money that you had prepared and paid out for that vacation or for that spring break trip? Don't just, spend it a blow. Oh, my trip is canceled. That's that. No, guys, how can we use that money that was set aside originally for this vacation?
Right. Okay. So kind of killing two birds with one stone, in essence.
I'm sorry.
Killing two birds with one stone. Like, you're being able to make a deeper impact, doing the same thing, not having to spend double money. So no longer trying to spend it on this birthday party and then thinking about college when it comes. It's like, we're going to get ahead of that right now, put this money here, and then I don't have to spend money for this party, and you already have money for school looking forward.
That's it. That's it. And it's teaching our children at a young age. I don't know how many of you guys could say that and I'll say personally again, if you haven't learned by now, I'm very transparent, and that's just how I operate. But I really wish that my mother had shared a lot of values with me with money, around money. Then I wouldn't have had to learn the hard way. And by teaching your child and making her aware or him aware, showing them their college funds and expressing to them the importance of these things at an early age, they won't have to learn, I'll say, the hard way.
Absolutely. So just involving them in those conversations, as early as you can, just so that they start to learn and kind of see how they should be planning for when they're an adult, learning from, the things, your strengths and your weaknesses as well.
Exactly.
Okay. And then were you going to say something else? I wasn't sure if I had cut you off before.
No, ma'am. I don't think so. Maybe it'll come back around.
Okay. we have another question. Do you recommend, this is kind of dipping back into what we were talking about earlier in terms of banks and accounts. Do you recommend that we use credit unions over big banks? So aside from high yielding investment savings accounts, should we be using credit unions over big banks?
Now, I personally recommend the credit union. I highly recommend credit unions, but most times credit union give you higher interest rates than the big banks. That's my personal preference. I would say yes.
Yes. Okay. So we should definitely be using the credit unions over big banks.
Yes. Yeah. Their CD rates are a lot better, as well as their money. They have a lot of different additional accounts than most regular banks offer.
Say that one more time.
The credit unions have a lot of different accounts and offer more interest than the regular big brand banks offer.
Okay. So what do you think it is about the appeal for people to go to, kind of some of the big banks and maybe go to credit unions a little bit less?
Well, it kind of sounds like, the mega church, if I got TD Jakes here and I got Pastor John Bishop, I'm going to go to TD Jakes because, hey, I'm on TV and it looks nice and I'm affiliated with this, So a lot of times we make decisions just because it looks good, sounds good, to feel good versus what's in the best interest for me.
Absolutely.
So.
All right. I was thinking, I actually had another question pop up here. Let me try to get back to it. Oh, no, it was more so of a comment and just thinking about something that you had touched on earlier in terms of thinking back about the mindset when it comes to saving. So I remember for myself, like when I first got out of college, I was working a retail job. And I just felt like I never had money. And I was kind of sitting in this place that maybe some people on this call are feeling like, how do I save when I don't have any money in the first place? And I did a call with my financial advisor. And one thing that she recommended was treating my savings account as a bill. And you kind of touched on that earlier in terms of just making sure that you are prioritizing it. Do you have any other strategies for anybody that might be struggling with kind of seeing the savings account as something that is, not optional, right? It's not like you put the scraps over here, like you are treating this as a bill the same way that you pay your cell phone bill or Wi-Fi. Any tips for folks that may be struggling with kind of getting over to that part?
Sure, definitely. One of the things, the way I started out young, I started really, really young with doing this, is that start with $10 savings. Start with $5 savings. And you may say, well, Marshea, I never reach my goal at that amount. It's in the beginning, guys, it's not about your goal that you're trying to reach or accommodate. It's about you learning or creating the mindset that this is a must. This is mandatory. This is just like paying my life insurance. So if my life insurance is, and we're going to use, just say, if we do $10 a week, we're going to say $40. My life insurance is $40. Well, your savings is $40. So it's mandatory that you put this $10 a week into this account. And what I do with my savings or my emergency funds, I never tie them to my checking account. Like I don't have it transferable, because just like it transfer in, it transfer back out. Like I can send this over here, So I always have my savings account in a different bank. Me personally, I don't receive any type of bank statements or anything. Like if you ask me how much I have saved now, out of sight, out of mind. But I'm making my choice to deposit a certain amount of money into that savings account every month. She knows, don't even give me the receipt. Thank you, it's deposited. And the reason, because I want to go there one day and be like, you got $1 million saved. Just catch me.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I want. I want you to make you're paying yourself, because that's what you're doing, yourself and your family. And see it as that I'm paying myself and my family. Set aside these funds because I want them to be financially free. If I'm here with them, I pray that I am forever. But if I'm not, they're okay. If a pandemic crisis come and me and my business owner, if I lose my business and everything shuts down, I'm sitting back and I'm good. you know, not, oh my God, what am I going to do? So this is why this is a must. You must make this a must for you guys to say that this is what has to be done. It's just like life insurance. It must be paid.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips? Lasagna is asking, do you have any tips for becoming a financial advisor post COVID-19?
Oh, I would need to have a conversation with you private to answer that, because I can go on and on about that. This kind of basically set up a business is what it is. If I'm understanding the question correct. But, and I'm gonna put this out, guys. My number, my text number, you can ask me any additional questions, 601-407, oh my God, 407-9685. 601-407-9685. So if you got any additional questions that I didn't answer or cover here, definitely text that number and I will definitely. Thank you so much for the person that put that into the group. I would definitely answer any questions that I can. But that's a great question.
Okay. Let's see if we have any other questions from any other viewers right now. Or if there's anything that I haven't asked or that no one has asked that you are, you know, that's kind of hot on your mind, like they need to know this, feel free to share that as well.
It's just so much. Like I said, I really get excited with, you know, sharing different information and things. I just want to make sure that if you guys don't leave with anything that I've said, understand the importance of savings and making the sacrifice. It's a lot. What I remember when I was in the process of my weight loss journey, they, you know the steps. They say, you know what to do. You know, you got to cut out the bread. You got to cut out the drinks. You have to cut, you know, we know that. Like, I know that. But it's a matter of doing it. It's a matter of doing it. You know the budget. You know the software, the spreadsheets, and you know the apps. You know that. But guys, you have to do it. You have to not do it for yourselves because it's easy, because it's what everybody does. You have to do it because you want to create financial freedom for yourself and your family, and make it mandatory.
Absolutely.
Make it mandatory.
I think it goes back to what you said earlier about that mindset. I mean, that's what you open with, and it seems like we keep finding ourselves right back there. It starts with the mindset.
It is.
Absolutely. I see that Joel has another question. So what are some things that you should consider when choosing a bank to open a business account with?
Things to consider, for one, is the fees. I mean, I always consider fees because each bank and each account, depending, you got different types of accounts, have different fees. And again, I went back to what I said earlier. Certain banks require you to have a minimum amount. And if you drop below $100 or $500, you pay additional fees. So you just want to make sure that you choose a bank and a bank account, especially if you're brand new and you know, hey, I might get below $100, $500. Don't go in there, you know, with your big dreams and your hopes. And that's great. I'm all for big dreams and hopes. But let's be realistic as well. Don't create accounts that you know that, you know, in the beginning of business that you may not be able to maintain that amount. So I would recommend starting out with a basic business account.
Okay, so basic business account. Just thinking about your own experience, Marshea, in terms of just like financial literacy and your own journey to being where you are right now, would you say that you started out, you know, kind of with a clear path and understanding of financial literacy, or is that something that you more so had to build on your own?
Oh, great question. It was a little of two. Another transparent moment.
Okay, we love it.
My mother, my mother had two children. I was the oldest of the two, and my mother had a habit of not a good habit. Hear me through, please. Okay. My mother had a habit of gambling. She had a gambling addiction.
Okay.
And me being the oldest child, when she would gamble, she would come home a lot of times with great winnings, and she would give me $200 or $300. I was 6 or 7 year old as a child. You know, you put $200 or $300 in a child's hand, you know, like, oh, I got money. And so the next day she would need to go back. She would go back out and she was like, okay, I need my money back. And I'm like, no, ma'am. You got to sign a contract. How much you need to borrow? You know, and so at 7. I started writing contracts to my mother for her to withdraw money from her account. You know, her money to me was mine.
Okay.
And she would sign those accounts. She would sign my little notes. I'm barely writing. You know, do you agree? Yes or no? You know, that's the best I could do. And then I would charge her interest. And then I was the neighborhood. The kids would come around and they would need to borrow money from me, and I would put interest on it. So I was always into money, into finances. Now, as I got older, my mother always took us on vacations. You know, she just really, I was, you know, really privileged child. But I never was taught, and this is why I'm saying the good and the bad. Privileged meaning I just saw that I could have and do and live however I choose. You know, I didn't understand how she got it or what was the good and the bad way that she was getting this money, or did she have a budget in place? Did she plan to take these trips? I just thought that we could go and I could buy whatever I wanted to buy, you know.
Right.
And so as an adult, when I became a mother, I'm thinking this is what I'm doing for my kids. Like, hey, we just gonna ride, you know, we're gonna have a good time and I'm just gonna splurge and do. And I began to do that. I had every credit card, everything possible that you could name. We went every place, you know, imaginable. And it put me in bankruptcy. So her habits taught me that I could do and enjoy life and live and go and etc. But it didn't teach me that I need to have a plan in place. It didn't teach me that I need to have savings in place and the use of credit cards and etc. So no, I've always been into finances, but I had to learn the hard way to do it the proper way.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate you being transparent with that. And I wanted to ask you that question because I feel like there may be some people on the call who are just feeling like, how do I start? And is this something that I can do? And maybe I didn't have the best spending habits, you know, up until now. So how do I do it? And so it's just great to know that, you know, even with your own experience with money and how you learned about money, like you're still able to turn that around and be able to be someone who is giving advice and helping other people with their money now. So I really appreciate you for being transparent with that.
You're very welcome.
We had another question come through. So if we do have an overflow in a crisis, would you recommend prioritizing paying off debt or savings?
Oh, great question. I actually had that in my notes. The first thing, guys, is to pay your debt. Pay your debt. It don't make sense. I'm sorry. Now that probably sounds very southern. I'm from Mississippi. It don't make sense. And I'm going to say it again.
Yep.
It does not make sense to have money in an account or a shoebox or whatever in the ground or a jar. It doesn't make sense to have money set aside and you have debt. Now with me, I personally hate for my phone to ring and you say that I owe you. Like, I hate that. So if you're a person, if you got debt, I'm sure they're calling you. That should be annoying you. So, you know, handle your debt. Pay your debt off first. I highly encourage you to pay your debt. Okay. And I encourage you also to have a conversation, guys. A lot of times we run from, and I talk about that in this book here, and it's on Amazon, by the way, is that we all have that, we have had that kitchen drawer with all the bills and the stuff in that we put stuff in because we don't want to deal with, we avoid. And so we think if we put it in that drawer, we can close it up like it goes away, but it doesn't. It doesn't go away. It's still there. It's present. And so when you go make purchases, it's like, ooh, I thought that was gone. No, it's just in your drawer, but it still exists, you know. And so I encourage you, let's go through these things. Let's see what it is that you're looking at. Let's have a phone call. A lot of these companies, especially now, are willing to work with you and negotiate with you in ways you would not imagine. These credit cards, you probably can pay them off at a very reduced rate. The interest rate, change your cards over. You can actually change cards. Now, if you got, let's say, a Chase card and the interest rate is 19%. Well, now let's look at some other options as far as getting a lower interest card and move that money to that card. So right now, the pandemic seems like it's the worst in the world, but it's a lot of opportunities that's attached to it. So I'm gonna ask you to pull out those drawers and that mail and all that stuff in your purse and your bag and all, etc. And let's address it.
Right.
And let's see how then we can pay that debt, and now we can start really saving.
Gotcha. Okay. And then for savings, I know we talked about some different types of accounts, but we didn't talk about online accounts as much. So what do you think about online accounts? Someone also mentioned like Ally Bank. Like, do you have any recommendations or just like what's your view on online accounts versus maybe traditional?
I think it's basically the same, because if you look at it, any bank now is considered online, you know, whether you go to it locally or if you know where it's located and it's not. I mean, everything is online banking. So I think it's basically about the same thing. Only thing, again, you just want to make sure that you're paying attention to your rates, your rates and your fees, if you're getting a good interest rates on certain banks and et cetera. You just want to kind of shop around and make sure that you're getting the best interest, especially if it's a savings account.
Okay. Is there any way, because I don't have any online accounts, like all of my accounts is either a credit union or you know, traditional banking, but I do find myself thinking about online accounts, and I sometimes have a fear of like, because I can't actually walk into this physical place, right, that somehow this money doesn't exist and I'm just sending it off to you know, to anybody anywhere. So like in your own personal and professional experience, like like with online banks, like, is that a realistic fear that people should have?
I would say no, because the bank that you walk into, don't you have online access to that money?
Yeah, but it's something about knowing that I can at least go and talk to someone in person that kind of changes me just being able to do all the things that I do online anyway.
I understand, and that makes sense. That makes so much sense. But in all honesty, guys, it's the same thing. I mean, the money could get lost and transferred and put into the wrong accounts online versus in-house. You have basically the same situations with both online or in-house banks.
Okay.
I'll work on that. Amazon, I would say, we shop online at Amazon, and we cannot go to Amazon and shop. But we can go into Kohl's and shop, and then Kohl's sometimes connect with Amazon, but we just use the third party. Same thing.
Okay. I have some homework to do when we get off. So we have another question. So I've been looking into opening a CD with a Black bank. What are the return rates I should be considering when I open a CD account? I'm curious about how much I can expect to profit off of a CD. And
okay.
If any phrases are incorrectly, they also say it.
That varies on 2 to 3 different things. The 2 things that I would mention that varies is that how much money you're depositing into the CD. Okay, that's main importance. And most rates start right between about 2.4% to about 3%. Over 3%, you're doing wonderful. Like, lock it in and put as much as possible. Most, like I said, most places 2.3, 2.5 and up. Anything up is great. Okay, but again, that your profit depends on how much money you're actually investing or depositing into that account.
Okay.
And how long the maturity rate. If you go in and say you take $5,000 and you do a 2.3, and for 6 months, of course, you don't get as much if you have left that money there. Locked it in for 12 months. So it depends on how much, how long, and the interest rates in that particular bank.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's not just that simple. It's a lot more things to consider when making that decision.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we have a few minutes left. I just wanted to, open up to you, Marshea, in case you have any other things that you wanted to share with us. Also curious to know like where we can continue to find you and stay connected with you after today's session. But yeah, is there anything else any tips or things that you want to share that, some of the listeners should know?
I think I covered mostly everything, all my notes that I had. And I love the questions, guys. That was really, really good questions. I love questions. I do want to just make mention of these 3 different accounts as far as college savings, and I won't go into detail on them because it can get we basically need time to actually have this conversation about them. But it's 3 of them that I would mention, and if somebody could chat, put it in the chat, that would be great to help those that make it go back and look at it. But the Coverdell Education Savings, that's Coverdell Education Savings. Now these are suggested college funds, savings accounts that I kind of mentioned earlier. If you're looking to do something for your children, I'm not affiliated with any of these. These are just 3 that I recommend as far as getting started with your young kids or your children. Coverdell Education Savings Accounts. And I'm sure you all have heard of the 529 College Savings Plan. And then one that you're probably not familiar with that we hear sometimes, thank you so much for the ones that's put it in the group chat there.
Yep.
And the last one is the UGMA Custodial Account. Now that one, you won't hear a lot about the UGMA, account, but I definitely want you guys to go in to look into it. Those 3 accounts, do a little research. They all 3 of them have benefits. Pros and cons, which anything comes with that, but definitely check that out. I think that will support you guys in a big way. If you're in a position that you can do that, now's a great time.
Okay, awesome. Okay. It looks like we have all those in the chat too. Okay.
Thank you. I love that. And how to reach me, guys? I'm on social media: Facebook, Marshea Mayfield. My business page is Financial Services Plus on Facebook, and Instagram. I just started doing Instagram. Myself. My marketing manager was doing Instagram, and I was like, let me try to do Instagram. But anyway, it's Marshea, MARSHEAM, Marshea M on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn as well as Marshea Mayfield. And again, guys, if you want to reach me, like directly reach me, that number that I gave to you earlier was 601-407-9685. I have to look, make sure I'm saying the correct number on my board there. Oh. 9685 is my text line. And what we can do is you text me and say you're interested, and we can schedule a 15-minute consultation that I can possibly answer a question that you may have and see if I could be of support to you in any way.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Marshea. I really appreciate, we appreciate you coming on today, making time for this, first of all, and sharing your insights with all of our listeners. So we appreciate you, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful host. Thank you.
Thank you.